Where's Chase?
Hello, everybody. It's James the Bone Discoverer, dedicated to original peoples as always. And we got two special guests on. We got Terence Smalls, we got Chase
Oh,
Johnson Lynch. Welcome to the show, my brothers.
Yo, yo,
where's
yo.
happening?
Everything good, good. Good to have you on. As we're approaching Black History Month, we like to have different type of discussions going on. Today we're going to speak on like a back to Africa movement, and yes, people should travel to Africa and especially people who haven't been there, you should go explore it yourself at your home, And we see people from the States moving to Ghana. There's people that are making the connections, but it's good to see this more getting stronger. So anyway, let me start with you, Chase. Anyway, you're living you're from the States, and what the Back to Africa movement, you probably like remember from like studying Marcus Garvey or something like that, and where did you come from with it?
Well, basically, being indoctrinated in American school systems, you know, I, like many people of color, had a poor outlook of Africa in my early years, it was like the older brothers who were part of like the Black Panther movement and Marcus Garvey Zionist movement and stuff that had more of an education than I had as a young man, about like going back to Africa and like let's get out of here really is what they wanted to do, was
Hmm.
because we were coming out of the civil rights movement hard.
Yeah,
Only now when we are being able to educate ourselves more to the internet, we're learning more about Black communities that thrived or tried their best to thrive and survive in the 60s and 70s, creating their own um, housing villages and areas, neighborhoods. You've obviously heard of Tulsa, but there's Seneca Village and there are other places that I'm only just now discovering, that was completely Black. Um, but it was always taken away and in that aspect. So we had it browbeaten into us as a young in that period to like have a disrespect of Africa. It's only now in its present day that that disrespect is changing, which is what I had wanted to talk about that whole back to Africa, is that now you have people willing to actually examine Africa for truly what it is.
yeah,
Because remember, we've grown up on the media that shows us like poor kids with flies on their faces, drinking dirty water and no clothes, um, bloated bellies.
negative
Um,
stuff.
but it would only be people who are from Africa, like being here in Britain, knowing people that lived in Africa proudly and know it for what it is. It's a thriving metropolitan community, no matter which country you're in. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there are poor areas that had malaria, what is it?
Malaria.
Malaria outbreaks and stuff like that. But that's being taken care of now in this new regime and stuff, and that's why I was trying to say I would love to discuss like what's happening with Africa now, as part of as opposed to the Africa of my youth that I had no clue what it was.
Well, you know what though, it's nice to see Africa advancing, and
Oh yeah.
Terence, you could speak on this, please.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with what Chase has just been saying there, about the origins. And what I find most important or most interesting at the moment is when Garvey was on the Back to Africa thing. It's like an ideological movement, Black nationalism.
Yeah,
We need to go back to liberate ourselves and so forth. But now, like, the people don't need any encouragement. they're just looking around and like you said, in America or even parts of Europe and Britain, they're looking around and going, wow, things are so bad. We might as well go back. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And a lot of them going back and they're reporting or documenting, sorry, I've seen videos on YouTube, I've seen people post stories on Facebook, and they're talking about their experience moving back, and it's mostly positive. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's better than what they've left behind. And that
Yeah.
would have been like Chase saying when Chase was growing up in school, even when we were in school, getting this vision of Africa as like completely backward. Nothing to see, no stories, no history. And now, because of the internet, we can see the truth, and people are pouring back. So, as I say, and at the same time as well, the Chinese investments. Like I know every aspect of the relationship China's got with Africa is not perfect because I've seen workers, struggling, getting, there's workers' rights issues, and people have been there's even violence I've seen in these workshops. But I think on balance overall, in the long period, it's going to bring Africa up and
Yeah.
position it, like as the next powerhouse
Yeah.
in the globe. It's going to be running, most of the jobs are going to be in Africa. So it'd be a good
Well,
place to be in the
well,
future.
on a business level, the Chinese definitely are better than the West. With how quick they seem to do things, they seem to build things fast. At the same time, of course, it's got to be the right leaders making the right deals rather than giving too much away. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So,
right.
like I said, going back to Africa, it was just like I say. Even though I was taught from young that, well, this is where we're from. I didn't have the issues. I got an African name. So for me, it was very easy, of course. But at the same time, there's being told, there's reading, and then there's going to the actual place. So I first went, I'm only going to Morocco. I'm exploring. I want to get into this African continent. So I'm going to Morocco. Then later, I'm speaking to some people about Gambia. Do you know what I mean? Now, what we got to look at Gambia is the population's only about 2 million, round about that. So it kind of is a place where, say, your first time going to sub-Saharan Africa. And when I say first time, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're talking about West Africa particularly, because you could go Kenya your first time and do safaris and, these type of places. But I found Gambia like very easy. And also, it's how they treat you. So soon as you land on the plane, because, Roots was there, Kunta Kinte, um, Kunta Kinte Island, I visited there. So the story of the person you brought over from the Gambia to the Americas. So learning all about not just Kunta Kinte, all the other people who went through kept in the dungeons and all that one. But the main thing is like the Gambia is just an easy place because they say welcome back, brother, as soon as you get off the plane. They like reggae music, so a lot of Jamaicans and Rastas love that movement out there. And there's a place there also where you can go where people smoke marijuana and the police don't bother nobody. And it's like a reggae type of place.
Mhm.
So it's kind of an easy place for most people to get on. Doesn't matter what part of the world you're from, a black person, they'll say,
Well, I
welcome home,
see.
brother.
I'm
You
seeing
know?
most people I've seen are going back to either, well, not necessarily going to live in Nigeria and Ghana.
Yeah.
So do you think, obviously, with Gambia, do you think Gambia is one of them, like, going to be one of them top destinations as well for people going back
Now when you say going back, if we see when we think of
to live? Though
Nigeria,
I mean, sorry, not
yeah,
just to visit. I
yeah.
mean to live.
Well, I'm just going to say when you say Nigeria and Ghana, I'm thinking of two places as well that business can thrive and business does thrive. Depends on if you're in that situation, if So Nigeria is big for businesses. Not everyone makes it, but there's money to be made if you've got the right credentials. So that's what it is there. And Ghana the same. So like buying a house in Ghana in Accra is expensive. A house. But going and buying the land, you're gonna get more for your money and building that. But a
Mm.
house is not cheap. Don't you think the houses in Accra are cheap? They're not cheap. You know what I'm saying? Unless you went to somewhere that's like a rough type of area, then of course the rent's going to be low. But a lot of people I spoke to, even some people just staying in a basic place in Accra, and it's not as
Well,
cheap
this
as
is
what you
it.
think. But
Most people are rushing to the capitals, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
but I think
that's why
that's
capitals are always
that's why you've got to buy. That's why you've got to buy your land,
Yeah.
and that everything worked for you perfect. That's the
I
way
think
you're meant
that's
to do
why
it.
that's why I'm saying is that you're seeing a lot more of these entrepreneurial websites trying to convince people to buy because
Yeah,
like you said, the land is cheaper to buy and you can build onto it. But if you get enough people, just the same way as people had done in the 60s and 70s here, is like you can actually build, like villages or towns that are like kind of like black owned or you know,
it's a
um,
brilliant idea, but see, that's the unity part. You come together. A lot of you could be 8 people, could be 10 people. Sometimes
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah.
It's about who's
Well,
willing to do
because
it.
those people have families, is what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say. That's what they're doing.
yeah,
But I
but
mean,
but also, even if you don't have families over in the continent and you want to still go over there, it's like people in America, they're going back to Ghana and only be invited, but still, they're all in different circumstances. There's some rich people who've already got money going back to Ghana. People there who were struggling going back to Ghana. There's people there who say, well, they can do everything with their hands. They can build everything with their hands. They save money in every single way.
yeah,
Example,
but also, yeah, again, you're speaking more on that whole kind of like labor intensive mindset where there's a lot of technology that is formed out of Africa now. I
yeah,
mean, they have their own phone system. They just developed their own Google, which will be their own like internet scenario. They are bringing their own dollar, which is not a dollar, but their monies, and basically, where you got places like Niger and Mali, Libya, Senegal, all joining in this whole collective with Burkina Faso. You got a real strong growing movement of power, that is going to be significant in just the coming year, because there's already been like one of those geo summits where the other countries have joined forces with them, like India and China and Russia,
you
and
from
then
like bricks and stuff like that, or something more.
oh no, no, no Brits,
Oh,
bro,
okay,
no
yeah,
Brits, no
yeah,
Brits, because the Brits are too busy kissing the butt of the Americans.
yeah,
I mean, like the thing about it is the fact that if you look at it, I mean, basically the people who have taken the resources of Africa are mainly in the Great Britain or British in that aspect. I mean, that's why France is bankrupt now. Italy is dropping down.
mm,
And but at least Italy is looking to apologize because Italy already had the president of Italy had already created renamed the national park after Thomas Sankara, one of the
yeah,
heroes of the African Revolution. So
yeah,
like the whole thing about it is they're like, hey, 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 listen, man, we're not. Let's talk. Let's be friends. And I mean, and that's really like a really good, powerful thing that's going on.
yeah,
But I mean, like the technology, not just young people who are creating stuff over there. If you look at it, these kids, brilliant, are building and creating technology. But we're talking about the adults and the job markets. Like those, like in Burkina Faso, the schools are free now. Do you know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah.
They've built, they repaved roads. They've built a railroad system. They're building bridges. I mean, this is amazing stuff that is happening, but we don't hear about it in the mainstream
well,
media.
do you know what? It's just on that point, right, Chase? I heard about apparently on the trailer they've built more roads than they
Yeah.
had in the entire post-colonial period. So you're talking like maybe 50 years or something. They've done more in the last 5 years than in the previous 50 in
No,
terms of road building, and you do see
no,
them stacking.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
about
And
making
they've
progress,
been
this
using,
brother. Though that's
they've
what we
been
got to give
using
him prop
old
for. He's not
tires to
messing
build
about.
those roads. They've been refining old tires, their junk waste that have been in their landfills and junkyards to repave these roads. And they're actually proven to be much more powerful because they don't produce as many potholes as is
Mm.
produced, but we're just tarring the roads. You
Yeah.
know, it's showing the thinking and thought process that is going on, where it's kind of like people should be taking notes.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
supposed to, those people, those Africans looking down, they should be looking up and going, listen, man, what else could we be doing here? How could we be like feeding, our families? How could we be building jobs? How could we be creating jobs? They revolutionized their farming industry with corn and stuff like that. I mean, I mean, corn and rice. It's just like amazing, man. I mean, this stuff is like, how come we don't
Mm.
hear about this? You
Well, do you know
know,
what, Jay? It's because, right, here's what I think. They've been kind of shunned by the
like yourself.
pro-European countries in Africa, innit? So
Yeah,
who is it? We've got Burkina Faso, we've got Mali, and I think we've got Niger.
Niger,
Maybe
Niger,
there's a
yeah,
fourth one. But all four of these countries basically got kicked out of the family of
ECOWAS.
West African nations or whatever.
Mm.
ECOWAS did, that's
Yeah,
right. They got kicked out of that. And I'm thinking, like when you see what's happening in Burkina Faso, like the whole continent should be encouraging that. Whereas it looks like it's a small bloc.
yeah.
You know what I mean? There's only 3 or 4 countries that are in this block, and then everyone else is against them. Trying to.
Yeah, but
That's why you
every
don't hear
day
about
new
how
countries
the
are
success.
joining in, though. I mean, Senegal, Libya, new
It is getting
countries are
bigger.
joining every day, and it's kind of like because they're all standing up and saying, hey, listen, if you could do it, we could do it. The more of us that join together, the less you become a target. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just a warning sign. You got to think about the revolution of the mind that's going on here.
Mm.
Africa has been so looked down upon that we need a whole re-education of our mindset. It's
yeah,
kind of like when we
yeah.
started talking about Black excellence, what, only like 2, 3 years ago, right?
Exactly.
And I was like saying, I don't want to talk about slavery Remembrance Day anymore. I want to talk about Black excellence. Looking, revisiting, Black creators and Black innovators and Black inventors and all that kind of stuff. Because it's like even Trump's list about all the things that Americans created. Every one of those things he named was created by a Black person.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
kind of it's
But nowadays, though,
the thing
people can, you
that
know what it is though. Now people can we can make excuses for things now, but there's enough information out now to know a bit about Africa. What I say, you don't have to be an expert. You just this basic understanding of maybe to see that they had kingdoms. And it's not a case of like to glorify. It's just the fact of like even the science, the mathematics, and all not even just in Egypt, the Dogon
they they
people.
cre- they
You know,
created
so
they created
just
flying taxis
and they,
that are self-controlled in
yeah,
Africa.
that's what I
You know
mean.
what
Like
I'm saying?
sewage systems, everything. But now today, you'll see you could go like probably like example, you go to South Africa and in Durban, there's a lot of like Asians there, and they'll control more of the markets, for example. And it's like, for example, you could have the Chinese. They're like always. Everyone seems to control things, but us, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm.
So the issue is sometimes you got to look at others, and others are working together to be able to achieve. So,
Well, Uganda's actually a good example of that. The Indians over there own the whole flipping economy by the looks of it at one point.
well, that's what I'm
You know what I
saying.
mean? And then
And
this, I guess, like you said, South Africa. I haven't been over there, but I know you've been 2 or 3 times, haven't you? So you see
there'll
the,
be
you
once
know,
Cape Town was in like, but just like I said, just out there, that's a whole nother Africa that like in itself because when I
Yeah,
meet people in
yeah,
South Africa,
yeah,
there's
but
people
James,
there. It's the opportunity, the lack of opportunity.
mm,
So for the white
James,
person there, they've got the biggest
James,
opportunities there, you know.
you as the explorer, my brother. It's like you've been to Africa many a times, and
Yeah,
many journeys. And I would just ask you, like, even though you were planning your next journey, it's like to visit any of these kind of places that where we're talking about that this new change is happening. Because I know I've seen some of your videos and you go to like villages and you visit chiefs and and people and all that kind of stuff. But it's like I would love to see you go to, like, one of these thriving cities or, the mall or whatever and shit, and show us like that real Africa, that like and dispel the myth
Mm.
of what it is that we think of when we think of Africa.
Yeah,
Maybe because,
yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's it. There's so much positivity out there now on the internet that you can't really hide
because you
anything
go
anymore.
there, you visit, you've been there many a times, and I've seen your videos and pictures and stuff like that.
You
And
know
that's
what?
all I ask is that,
Yeah, because also as well, there's like there's all different types of research. Sometimes, or even like out in Madagascar, for example, like the
yeah.
things I'm looking at, like there, maybe I weren't looking at it elsewhere. Like so, it's like it's all about the migration. You've got certain places there that other people have tried to claim, if you know what I
No, I
mean. We
know, but
got
I'm just
so
trying to say it's only because of this time
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah,
in now, James.
yeah,
We're in a new period of Africa. As Abraham Traore calls it, the United States of Africa. We're in a new period, and Africa, from a viewpoint, your viewpoint would be interesting to see that
yeah.
change.
Well, there's the funny thing, yeah, right. You got to look at the colonialism. Is it how it's still in place? So I'll give you an example. In Namibia, the Germans had history there, and so out there now. So I was in the hotel now. I'm waiting to do a little safari tour. So I'm waiting now for the driver to come, and then it's a white German. So I'm saying, how come it's not an African? Blah blah.
Mm.
So because there's no one who does that particular tour, and I was like, well, something mad here. So the maddest thing is, I did the tour anyway, yeah. And when the German guy's having a conversation with him when he's taking me now, he was born there, but his parents must I don't think moved there, but they basically own lots of land. And I'll be honest, when I'm having a discussion with him about, like, say, things that you can do in Africa, and the opportunities in Africa. And when he's explaining about, especially we're talking about Namibia now, by the way. So you have to understand there's a lot of land compared to people. This is very important to know because if you wanted to buy land, there's a lot of land you're going to get in Namibia. It's around not just desert, obviously. It's a big, it's a massive place. So basically, you could own a farm out there. There's a lot of things that you could do. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at him now, how much of a great life this German guy is living out in Africa. And he said that there's no way he would live like that in Germany or the UK. And he was funny enough when he was speaking about the UK, he was like, oh, I wouldn't like to live there. He knows that out in Africa, he's living the life.
Yeah.
That's the
Mm.
funniest thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. You see them. You see them in Botswana, mate. If you go to Botswana now, like over the last 10, 15 years, there've been loads of Europeans coming in, setting up businesses, especially hotels and restaurants and all that. And
Yeah,
it's just because basically costs are just so much cheaper, aren't they? Just right
Yeah.
across
yeah,
the board.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can still charge high prices because you set up in the capital so you can hit the tourists, but just rent and, supply
Well, there's
everything's
another
just
thing
too
I was
much.
trying to say before. When I was saying before about cost and stuff like that, there's different. There's some people go to Africa to live and the poor, and there's some people go with money. Then I was saying that people are good with their hands. What I was saying there is there's people who are building their own stuff. They're into the whole building, so it's saving themselves money. And then they were explaining that buying yourself a truck out there because when you're bringing all these bricks, it's going to be cheaper for you to bring them in rather than hire someone to bring them in because this is costing money, bringing all these bricks and cement and what I
Yeah,
see. So
but I think I saw a video where they were doing that whole shed housing, like where they were
yeah,
just kind of like the walls, that were flat packed, and then they could just stand them up, connect them, and everything like IKEA walls and stuff
yeah.
like that. And they could build houses like that out there. You know what
Mm.
I
Not
mean?
difficult.
And
It's not difficult, is it, to set up, man? Just look like
no,
it looks like the hardest thing you're securing the land deal because you've got to
I
go
think
through
yeah,
agencies
that would
and
be
then there's some
Make
people are getting
sure
scammed or whatever. But once you've got that,
you got registered land and them things. Of course, these definitely don't just buy off anybody. Someone
that's
tell
what
you
I'm
I've
saying.
got
I've
land.
heard so many
No,
stories, man. If it
I've
doesn't
heard
done,
that
but if you
myself.
can get that, if you can get that
Yeah,
sorted, that's
you got to make sure
brilliant.
you're doing everything properly. Because you're going to do something properly if you're here. If you're going to buy a house here, you make sure you do it the proper way, isn't it?
True,
And then, so
true.
why wouldn't you do it in another country? So, but yeah, no, it's there's so much opportunity. It just depends on yourself sometimes, and also your connections and what are you willing to do. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people want things so easy,
And
just
you know what as
fall
well?
over that.
Funnily
You know
enough,
what I mean?
like educated people, like educated black people, like who should know better. I'm still hearing them say because I know people who go to Africa, you see, but they'll go to like Morocco and they'll go to Tunisia and they'll go to
Yeah, yeah.
Algeria and they'll go to Egypt. And I'll say to them, because they're
Egypt,
black
Luxor,
and the
yeah.
family's from Africa. So I'll say to
Mm.
them, some of them are in my family, and I'll say to them, why don't you go like to Nigeria or Ghana, like where the family are from? And then they say, oh, I wouldn't go there. Too dangerous. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow, like you went to Cambridge, you know what I mean? Like you're 50. What do you mean you wouldn't? And it's like, to think
Mm.
that it's scary to think that people have that view today when it's
Yeah.
so easy to rectify it with like 10 minutes on Google. And like you said before, every place has got dangerous places and
Mm.
safe
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
You know,
Everywhere.
it's
No,
just
but
mad.
but like it's like what it is it takes sometimes it's everything is time. Look at people who started moving to Dubai, for example. A lot of people I knew one time wouldn't even go near the place. And then they heard other people getting good results. Oh, you can get a good job out there and this
Yeah,
and that. So, and the tax situation, no pay, no tax. So people want to take advantage of these things. Sometimes,
that's
and,
right.
and also remember, there's a lot of people getting off from the UK, especially rich
Mm,
folks. Rich folks are thinking, I don't
that's
know,
right.
I'm not benefiting over here. Because if
Mm,
you was a millionaire anyway, I mean, I would be living here. I'm going to be living somewhere in the sun,
exactly.
and your money's going to go further.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't
these,
believe how many rich people have left Britain to go and live in the Caribbean. There's loads.
yeah, and it's like it's seen as believed now, though, because maybe one time when the millionaires were here, maybe it was a better life for them.
Yeah. Still citizens in this country, but they
Yeah,
live the life in the
yeah,
Caribbean on the beach. You know
yeah.
what I mean? John Cleese is one of them. Everyone knows John Cleese from Fawlty Towers and Monty Python. He's one of the most
Hmm.
famous comedians in the country. He lives in freaking Jamaica.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, it is. And like we saying about Africa, like the benefits of being in Africa. There's benefits of
Mm.
being any place in the world and that, but it's cost of living, and you're in the place of all the resources and it's vast Africa. You might even decide, you know what, I'll go and live in Kenya. That's totally the other side.
Exactly.
You
If
might
you don't
decide,
like somewhere, you can just move somewhere else and you can keep
yeah,
moving for your whole life. You never run out of options.
we know some people who've moved to Ethiopia, you know what I mean, and moved to Rwanda, so like
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
said, there's
Yeah.
people and they're making that happen. Braz Congo example is Rwanda. You know what I'm saying? You have to take the chance in the beginning to go over there, have children over there to an African woman,
Yeah.
raises kids there in the school, and they're gonna be,
So has
you
Chase
know,
has Chase been over? What's Chase's
No,
history
no,
with the
I haven't,
continent?
man. But I will tell you that
you've
I
been to
am
Egypt
curious to
though.
go.
You've
I
been to
will tell you
Egypt.
one
Okay, you've
thing.
been then. That's it.
You've been to
To end
Egypt.
to end where I began is like I had no love for Africa whatsoever growing up. But I mean, I've learned to respect and love the country that it is, the power that it represents, the history that we all come from, and I would definitely love to go. I mean, and I've been to Luxor twice and
Yeah,
everything,
Mm.
but who doesn't go to Egypt, right? But
beautiful place,
I mean, I
Luxor.
would
Yeah,
love to go to like Mali or Ethiopia or something like that,
yeah.
because that's where the cradle of civilization began.
Well, you know
Uh,
what? That you should make that up. Maybe we should all organize something soon. Sometimes we need to like
I
get a
wouldn't
few
mind that.
people there and see.
Even though Dibs raised a few questions about like the origin of humanity, it might be a bit further south. That's an interesting discussion. But I'd still like to go to
Yeah,
Ethiopia, definitely.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. So maybe that should be a future thing for us all. Planning. and
No,
even
I
like
mean
just look at
definitely,
what to
man. I
do.
mean, I mean, I think we're now in a good time to even consider such a thing. It's kind of like
Yeah,
when, Patrick had the Back to the Return project and all that kind of stuff. You know, you might have asked yourself, "What are you returning to?" You know what I mean?
yeah.
But
Hmm.
now, where we are now, or what we see anyway through the internet, you know, there's definitely a place to explore and to visit. And I would love to go.
You got so many choices as well. Zimbabwe. You were
Well,
just
no,
say,
exactly, man. I
you
mean,
were
but
saying
that's the
before
whole
your
thing.
friends in Zambia, Terence or something. Your friend or your
Hmm.
cousin.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, you got Ethiopia, you got Egypt as well, of course. You know, because I went to the south
Yeah.
in Egypt. I went down to see the Nubians, just black folks down there. It's a totally
Well,
different
you've been north,
place.
south, east, and west, haven't you?
Yeah, I went to Cairo, Luxor, and
Oh yeah, been
Aswan,
there. Yeah, been there. But I meant you meant
and I
down
actually went over to
down the Red Sea,
The
down
Nubian village to
Aswan.
meet them. Yeah,
I was
Aswan.
just thinking because I know you've been to Kenya, so that's
And I
obviously
tell you
been
what,
north.
getting the train from into Aswan, it's hectic on that train. Going
Well,
from
I don't know.
Luxor,
I was on the night train coming back from Cairo, and it was scary. I will tell
was
you that.
it's crazy on them
No, hang on a
Egyptian
minute.
trains. I'm telling you,
Zanzibar.
but
You went to Zanzibar,
yeah,
didn't you?
Zanzibar as well.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
I've
that's
got
that's probably furthest
so
east.
like
That's probably the
yes,
furthest east.
not a
yeah.
trip. I
So
would love to.
Madagascar's the furthest east I've been, and Mauritius, Madagascar, Mauritius,
No, Madagascar's
furthest
on the other
east.
side, isn't it? Isn't Madagascar
That's
on the?
east. That's east.
Oh yeah,
That's
it's on the east side. Yeah,
but
you're right.
man, it's
You're
The
right.
like
most west I've been, the most
oh,
west I've been is Cape
That's
Verde.
how the Indonesian. Yeah,
Cape
yeah,
Verde's the most
yeah,
west because it's on an island, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then the most south, South Africa, then obviously Namibia.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
loads of
Even the
places to
And
Canaries. Some people
Namibia is supposed
include
to
the
be really
Canaries. You
nice
know what I
as
mean?
well. I mean,
yeah,
Namibia is supposed to be really nice as well.
yeah. Ghana's a lovely place. You went there as well, it
It is.
says. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Lovely place,
yeah,
man.
really nice, man. Yeah,
People just chilled, and that's one thing. People's attitude, just African hospitality, very respectful people. You know,
yeah.
like they got
Like
respect.
I
You
say,
know, they
depend where you
like
go. People, they're all nice, but they're all. It's just in
yeah,
a different way, but they're all nice, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. But it's been a good little
Yeah, I think
discussion
that
here,
was the
anyway.
problem with Luxor. It's still
Was
pretty poor though.
yeah,
Hmm.
People were still poor. So what I didn't like about it was that, you know, it's like you're out there in the streets and it's like my brother, my brother, my brother, and like give me something, you know, and you can't give one person something because then everybody will swarm you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, like it's a funny thing with Africa as well. Even though you've been to Egypt, Egypt's Africa, as you know, and I know that
Egypt
like
is Africa. A
we
lot of
might
people don't think it is, but it is. Yeah.
even though no, there's people who try to refer to it as not Africa. You know, it's
Yeah.
these discussions are basically shut down now. The old discussions, these now. You know, people like
Well, the
say,
same thing is with Dubai. Isn't Dubai in Africa?
if you wanna, it depends. Like if you want to really go back, because with what they call the Middle East, it's geographically Northeast Africa. So Dubai might as well be Africa because that's on that middle, what they call the Middle East, isn't it?
Yeah, I know,
So
but it's still Africa though.
yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Why you playing their game? Because it's kind of like the same thing about how
Yeah,
the size of Africa is actually bigger than they want you to think. When you
yeah.
look at the Mercator map, you know, they make Africa look like it's small, you know,
But
like
look
a
at the
small little thing.
example as well. If we look at the oldest, what's the oldest connection with Africa and so-called Western Asia? Because that's what they try to refer to as is Western Asia. So the Sumerians, you know, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, even if you look at it from a historical point of view, you know, they call themselves the black-headed people in Sumeria. There was also connections. There's so much similarity with Egypt and Sumerian anyway. You can see there was contact completely. And then we've got Nubia, which is older than Egypt, you know. So then, you know, the Sudan. And then you can go further, different parts of Africa. So,
Well, no, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that thing about, like I was just saying about being re-educated in my later years now. It's kind of like um that thing about Africa. The original name of Africa was what Akabala,
um,
Akabalon,
Al-Kibalan,
Alkebulan,
yeah.
which is supposed to mean the Garden of Eden.
Well, like I say, there's even some people who don't believe it was Al-Kibalan because some people said Africa didn't view things in terms of continents. So that could be true. Or it's so I wouldn't like. But as far as we know, Alkebulan is the oldest name for the continent, as
Yeah,
far as we can find.
which means the
Yeah,
Garden of Eden.
but Renaud
Yeah.
Rashidi, he disputes he disputes that, you see, because he doesn't believe that Africans viewed things in terms of continents. I'll give an example now. You've got Europe and Asia, haven't you? Really, that's the same landmass. That's Eurasia, and it was Eurasia in ancient times. So to say now Europe and Asia, no, these are the same continent. The Americas, North and South America, it's really one big continent. So this is the thing with when we speak on continents. So from an African perspective, like, but then they would have to view the whole continent, like you've just said about the what they call the Middle East, Dubai, and that. They would have to view the whole thing because they're doing geography. It's
Hmm.
geography now. So geographically, which continent is it situated in? Israel, definitely in Africa. You only got to right there. You know,
Yeah.
they built a Suez Canal, but outside of that, you could just go back and forth. So and then look at the Greeks writing about Africans. He was Eastern Ethiopia. He was Ethiopia, then Eastern Ethiopia. Ethiopia, Eastern meaning the Indians, because at the time the Ethiopians resembled the people of India, and there was a lot more black people in India during them times. So
No, yeah,
it's
exactly. But
interesting. There's
exactly, but the name Africa was supposed to be a
well,
name
they say it's
by
named after the
some kind of
the
like
general
Greek general
Roman
whose
and
name
that
was Africanus.
Yeah, Scipio Africanus. Now
So like to think about it is
there's
it's
actually a
just like
dispute with that, as well. There's actually, it's like I say, there's people say it's named after this person, and then some people said that it's a mixture of words, like the word Afri, that's
oh,
an
come on,
African
bro,
word, and then the car is.
come on,
So
bro,
there's loads. It's really deep. It's deep.
come on,
It's
bro.
deep.
That
But
that's
yeah,
you
but
know,
the
but
name in
that's just like
Africa,
people trying to fight for their power
yeah.
and naming stuff, you
But we know
know.
the name wasn't Africa, the original name. That's one thing that we know.
Right. No, exactly. And everything like that. But what I'm just trying to just say is that like it's just really interesting about the whole whitewashing of history going all the way down to religion and the Bible and stuff, which would really be interesting to look upon like where they say Ethiopia was the first Bible and stuff like that, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
yeah. That's interesting.
everything
Mhm.
else became versions, like the Old Testament, the New Testament, the King James version, where they say the King James version was the one where all the whitewashing happened.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
where they changed like various things, like the name of Jesus. Well, it was Yeshua,
Well,
something
the
like
letter
that.
J was only round.
Huh?
That's not that old. The letter J. So he definitely would have
Yeah,
called
yeah, yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything. So it's fascinating how everything down to the artwork, like all the portraits and paintings. So it's like when you look at the 15th, 16th century of the monarchies of Europe, where they were run by black kings and queens and stuff like that. You're like, what? And then, and people refuse to believe that. And
Yeah.
then now you got like these movies where they remember, like, I don't know if you don't seem like you watch a lot of television, but they did a TV version of Queen Charlotte
Oh yeah,
and they made
yeah,
her
yeah,
black.
yeah,
And like, but they tried to do it in a way where, oh, this is wokeness though. She wasn't really black, but we're gonna have her played by a black woman because we're being so progressive. But
yeah,
she
yeah.
actually was a black
Yeah,
woman.
she actually had more descent in her. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it was
That's
kind of,
right. Black
but,
people.
but,
Yeah.
but then to prove their point, they did the movie of the Boiling Girl, the Anna Boiling Girl, who was white, but they decided to make her played by a black woman. And that's where the controversy or everybody started to have an uproar because they're like, hey, listen, we didn't ask you to blackwash this woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're only
yeah,
doing it so that way, people could accept Bridgerton,
yeah.
right? Bridgerton has all these like black characters who obviously there was a form of black royalty,
Mhm.
in those times, but it looks weird for us to look at it. Even for the people who made the show have have commented on how weird it is.
Have
I
you
mean,
watched Gladiator?
happy that there's black people on the
Yeah.
show, but it's weird because
Have you watched?
our
Mm.
mindset has been so controlled.
I'm just going to say, if you watch Gladiator, the one with Denzel Washington, he plays Hannibal.
No, he doesn't play Hannibal, but
Is it Gladiator 2?
yeah, but he doesn't play Hannibal. He
Who's he
wants to play
playing?
Hannibal in the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
No. I know what you're talking about. What I'm trying to say, his character is not Hannibal. That's
Okay,
another
okay.
it's another
Right.
king. But he wants to play Hannibal
He wants to
in the
play
next
Hannibal.
movie.
Yeah. So it's not
Yeah.
the yeah.
But
So
he plays another king, yeah.
yeah. So would this movie come out when he with him love to play Hannibal? Because I was reading something about this, but I thought it was the Gladiator for some reason, and he was playing. But will it be coming out? Is it going to be happening with Denzel playing Hannibal?
Hopefully, like obviously, he's getting up there in age and
Mm.
supposedly he might be doing Equalizer 4 first and stuff like that. But what I'm more curious about, really,
They could get
which
someone
is
else
an
even to do it for
interesting
the most part.
conversation,
Yeah.
what I'm more curious about is, you know who Ryan Coogler is, right?
Ryan Fugler.
Yeah, the guy who did Sinners.
Sinners, no. I didn't even
Oh,
watch Sinners.
golly, man, James, you gotta watch modern movies. But he did that
Mhm.
ultimate, awesome black film
Yeah,
this summer with the black vampires. Michael B. Jordan is playing twins and stuff like that. And it's called Sinners. You gotta watch
Sinners.
that. It's an
You know, 'cause
awesome.
I don't get a chance to watch many movies, but I
I
will
know
look
you
out for
don't,
that.
but anyway,
I will look out for that.
the point about it is they're a
Yeah.
powerful team. Brian Coogler is the black director, but supposedly the next, well, it's not going to be the next film, but a film that they're working on a film about Mansa Musa,
Brilliant.
which I really want to see,
That's gonna be brilliant.
hopefully, because the
Hopefully they make
story
that
of
right.
Mansa Musa and his brother Abu Bakr, you
Yeah.
know, will blow the lid off of everything.
And it's going to be interesting what they show on it. Will they show more so going to the Americas and
Well,
things like that?
this is what I mean because the
Yeah.
whole idea was supposed to be that when Abu Bakr took those three ships to across the water, let's just
Yeah,
say
the voyages.
that the Americas, which wasn't the Americas then,
Mm-hmm.
was one of the
Very true.
places,
Yeah.
as well as like the Caribbean, South America, and all that. And this is how you got this whole indigenous dark skin um, aboriginals, so to speak, peoples from, because he filled those ships with communities. It wasn't
Mm.
just like, a couple of pirates and shit like that.
Yeah.
If you read the story, it was supposed to be the ships were so big that he filled them with communities of people onto those ships because he wasn't planning on coming back. They
Yeah.
were planning to populate,
Yeah.
and rumor, I mean, as it that there probably could be the people behind the Olmecs,
Well, you got to
because
look at
people,
before we deal that we got to look at time periods now because when we're speaking about Mansa Musa, we're dealing with like he was born round about the 1300s times,
yeah,
13,
yeah,
20 or
no,
something like that.
yeah, it's
AD.
before 1492. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way.
but the Olmecs, you were going back now to BC. So
Oh, okay,
the oldest Olmec statue could be like 1600 BC.
okay.
Then the other ones around 1500, 1400 B. They're all BC, don't basic most of them.
All right.
So,
Well, this is true.
but
You're the man. So I mean,
but
I probably
but
wrong about that.
what I will say is that the West African couldn't reaching the Americas was always played a major role And not only that, because where we find this information about Mansa Musa going to the Americas, because the written sources in Arabic, even in Arabic sources. So there's not only just that, and then they have their own legendary myths, which some people don't know are true or false. But the funny thing is, it is true. But they also had a myth back in Mansa Musa's time about something existing thousands or something years before.
Like what?
So the same thing as what people are talking about now. So, for example, if you don't go by the source of the text and you just listen to oral history, for example, you would know if it was true if you did take that voyage 600, 700, or 800 years ago, unless you've got records or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what I was trying to say is if you go back to Mansa Musa's time, they also had legendary myths of their people traveling over to the Americas. Well, like you say, we're called the Americas, crossing this ocean and reaching another part of the world. But
So you mean like before they went, they heard of other people who
yes,
went before them?
yes, because people who,
Okay.
if you look at it, when people before them did what they did, they can forget about things, or if it's not documented, then it's usually survived within the oral history or something. Because how would you know about it? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. It is, and so I think it's all like it's the ancestors always just paving the way.
No, no, exactly,
That's what it
exactly. I
basically is.
mean, but that's what I'm trying to say. It still is a fascinating tale to be told, and I
Yeah,
would love to see what take they take on it because the story is actually about two brothers, you know. So I mean, even though Michael B. Jordan is in it, you know, and everything else like that, the question would be: would he be Mansa Musa or would he be Abu Bakr? You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything, and because which one is the most interesting now?
Well, they
Mansa Musa.
say most people say they say Abu Bakr took the
Sorry, man,
voyage,
but you know what? Yeah,
but like I say, like because it's so long
I was
ago.
close.
Yeah. Well, it was his brother anyway, so
Yeah, yeah, I
you
was
know,
close.
so
But I mean, like the thing
family.
about it is that my point is that one disappeared and there was supposedly no written record of his travels. While Mansa Musa, after he had gone, went on a pilgrimage, you know,
Yeah,
with his gold
yeah.
and went throughout Egypt and supposedly what did he call that? Supposedly crashed the system
In Egypt,
because
the
he
Egyptian
everywhere
economy
he went, he gave people
as well.
gold
Yeah, that's right.
and and stuff like that. So, but I mean, it wasn't like he was in any wars or you know
Well, he had
anything
some.
like
He
that.
did have some issues. He did have issues when he was. It was it. There was actually something I was checking out. It was about like because of who he was, his status, and when he came to places like Egypt, and I think
Mhm.
it was Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, they have something called the is it the Sultan, and
Hmm.
he wanted Mansa Musa. He asked him to kiss his feet or kiss the floor or something like that.
That's it.
Mansa
No way.
refused because obviously, you know, the level of a king he is to dealing with
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
these
yeah.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a mad ending of the story. That's what the funny thing is,
Well,
Mansa
I don't
Musa.
know what happened at the end, though. I mean, like, did he get killed? Did he do a war or
It just seems like there was just like a big decline. Like I mean, from this,
big to
but
what?
a big decline, just like all
Yeah.
empires declining, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
But
yeah. Well, I mean, I know they talked about he crashed the empire financially,
yeah,
and everything. So that couldn't have gone down well.
yeah,
But again, it just would be interesting to know what happened to those ships, you
and
know,
we've got
where
to
they ended up
remember,
and what were their adventures like.
we've got to
What?
also we also got to look at like, well, what religion was Mansa Musa? Obviously, he was a Muslim, so now that he's with the religion, he's going to be have allies coming from people mixing in from the North Africa and anyone who's so you can't have that like invitation in that. with all the same religion. This is the way we're going to get on, type of thing or something. But that's where like the African traditions started declining as well, which we've got to understand. You know, when these religions all
Yeah.
come in,
Oh
Christianity,
no, no. I mean,
Islam.
I guess that's interesting because I haven't heard too much about the African gods.
Because Dr. John
Um,
Hendrik Clark, you got Dr. John Hendrik Clark, and when he speaks about how West Africa was conquered by Islam, example, you have to understand that you see when the Arabs swept across North Africa. Now in North Africa and places like Mauritania and that, you know, they were able to penetrate. But we had a place called ancient Ghana, and I'm not talking about Ghana where Ghana is now, present day Ghana, sort of like near the Mauritania area, Mali. And the Arabs tried to penetrate into there. Only tried once and got absolutely dealt with. So after that, they never ever came back. But what did happen is Islamized blacks started overrunning our kingdoms in West Africa, and that's what
right.
brought us down. You know,
No, I hear you. But I
religion,
mean,
and
like,
then later Christianity's coming over, the Western
well, yeah, but see,
Christianity.
this is what I'm trying to say is that even though Christianity rose to become kind of like the power vacuum of religion, when they when the Muslims were believing in Allah,
Yeah,
um, did they believe in Muhammad, or Muhammad was the prophet who
he's the
believed in
prophet
Allah,
in that.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the question I don't know much about is that, like, you know, was there a pantheon or was it monotheistic just the same way as Christianity is monotheistic? Um,
Going back to Africa, because we've had this to talk about the pantheon and the monotheism. They had everything. So basically, if you look at a lot of the Bantu, they all have a supreme being. They all believe in a creator. All the Bantus, and the Bantus are spread from one part of Africa to the other. They were also in Kemet in ancient times. So once you follow the pattern of the Bantu, and that's what that's what helps you like actually connect Africa more easier with the Bantu connection, because you only got to follow their lineage or their linguistics or their philosophies. You know, it's all interlinked. If you look at Bantu philosophy, then you look at ancient Egypt, it's pretty much identical.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
interesting part. It's actually very interlinked, Africa, and it
No,
was
no,
even
no, I
so
hear you, but
interlinked.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
say is that like a lot of the religions that came after Christianity, followed the triune God scenario
but
of,
but they did. But sorry, back to what you were saying. They did believe in a creator, a creator.
yeah,
Now it doesn't have to be a god like the how Western they view God. You know, it doesn't have a likeness God. I'll give an example. In Egypt, we look at documents to try to understand things. But you know, when you go to other parts of Africa, you might have to rely more on oral history. So if you can get the oral history part and you've got the documents and you're able to combine them and they seem to match, that's the ultimate win.
yeah,
So, and that's one of the main things because the Yoruba had a writing script at one time, but they abandoned it. The reason why they
yeah,
abandoned it because they didn't want people to have an excuse not to memorize something in their head.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also, if your enemy is able to learn your writing, it's like a trace of something. You know, it's really deep. How memory is so important.
Yeah, but see, the problem with that is, but then it's easy to get lost. I mean, that's kind of like me in college where I used to
Mm,
write my diaries in code.
yeah,
And then after I left college, I forgot the code.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, no, this is to protect the innocent, or this is whatever, da da da. But then I really want to know what the story is there, and I don't know because too many things are coded and
Yeah.
stuff, and so it's just weird. But
Mm,
either way, is I just think it's fascinating about the that aspect of when I was trying to say about the Trinity and all of that other kind of stuff, that seemed to trickle down through the centuries.
But
But
the
like,
I give an example. The Bantu have a trinity. So they have the creator, the ancestors, and created the ancestors and the philosophy. The three
that's not really
things.
a Trinity, but
Yeah, and yeah, because they've also got like there's also another somewhere else as well that has something like the said we have the Father, the Son,
the
and
Holy Ghost, yeah.
yeah. So there's all similarity there, and there might be like example. See the word Bantu, Bantu in Egypt, the Neteru. There's a lot of similarities in some of the linguistics, and this is how people have been able to make connections like Diop, Philo Babenga. These are brilliant scholars on all the linguistics and stuff. So, but
What
you
just
got to
came to
keep
me
this
is
digging.
that
Yeah.
when they kept reinterpreting the Bible, what came to me is that it probably could have been the father, the son, and the mother, initially.
Well, like the Ankh, look at the Ankh, what it represented, you know, man, woman, and child.
Well, no, but this is what I'm trying
Life.
to say
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that the Romans, King James, all of them, it's like women, no, don't give them any power. Say it's a ghost. You know what I mean? Say the third one is a ghost or something like that, but give the woman no credit whatsoever.
But that's
She was only a vessel.
well, the Romans brought the Romans and them all. Well, actually, before the Romans, actually, the Hyksos they brought in that patriarchal. They had a
Yeah, yeah, but
they had a
I
matriarchal.
mean,
They had
yeah, but that's what
matriarchal.
I'm just trying to say is
Yeah,
sometimes like, if you're able to go back
yeah.
like the old source and have it reinterpreted, it'd be really kind of interesting because, the last thing I'll say, because I know this thing is going to cut off again, is that like there are a lot of things I'm following like on reels and stuff like that, like unwritten truths and things about the history of man and God and religion, and how everything all goes back to all those old philosophers like Moses and everybody was all black.
Mm. There's only
Moses.
one issue when we study history, though. Sometimes people look at the elites. What did the elites believe? But then the
I
elites
don't
can
look
believe.
that, but go ahead.
So the elites can believe that they are God themselves if they want to tell you that.
Yeah,
But what did the people believe? And I think people also need to focus on what were the communities about. Because
yeah,
only looking at the elite, sometimes the elites, they just do whatever to stay in power. Some, don't get me wrong, some of them were better pharaohs than others, or some of them, not every, sometimes we forget about the common people. But always looking at the royalty. Oh, he was the son of this person. The queen, she was the queen, she was the princess, and too much focus on royalty as well, which is a great thing, but we all got to focus on what were the local communities, what did they believe, like
yeah,
because yeah, these are very important things. I do think
yeah.
as well.
Well, I would tell you, like an interesting topic next time would be like, there's this thing about the origin of whiteness
Mm.
and
Yeah,
where there were no white people before the 15th century and everything like that. And there's philosophers talking about this where it's like there was a point in time where you can go back to when um, people were divided by color, where they used to just be divided by their nationality. They were Norwegians, Dutch, French, and that's how people identified themselves by their culture, as you should.
yeah.
I'm an Egyptian or I'm a Jew or whatever, blah blah blah. But when it came down to I'm white, you're black, I'm more, and you're less, that actually happened. As the white
Basically, you
elite
know what
tried to,
though, it
huh?
um, most people speak on racism from when like the Europeans came into Africa or like 400 years ago, but racism can go back to ancient India where the Aryans, the white nomadic horsemen that came in from Central Asia and attacked India. and came in large numbers, and these were very like barbarian type of people. And when they're able to make casts out of complexions, and obviously do experiments by, let's say, mix this person with this person, basically trying to get them lighter and lighter. And sort of like these experiments were done later on, as you see in Australia, with the Aboriginal Australians and certain places in South Africa and wherever else. So the same things were done, you know what I mean? So these are important things to know. Where you can go anywhere around the world. Sometimes that if you go to New Zealand, for example, and if you look at the Maoris that they show you, they never like to show you the darkest Maoris, for example. They always try and show you the palest Maoris, the ones that mixed in the Europeans, because they're the ones who they want to be more appealing when you look and think, this is what New Zealand is like, or they do it everywhere. And it's, but you got to just dig yourself. The research is there, you know, everything's there. You got to dig yourself.
I dig you, but that's yeah, but it's interesting as you say that they want to look more appealing.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that became a point in time
Yeah,
when
that's right.
that
Totally.
was the issue, where color
Yeah.
became an issue. Color wasn't an issue
Yeah.
until the 1500s. Is what I'm trying to say. That's why you can have the European, royalty be black
Yeah.
as it
So,
was
but
because it's before the 1500s.
see, that's the thing. We got to be careful when we speak about racism, because remember now, the Hindu religion, yeah, it wasn't a religion before the alien invasion. There was the worship of Vishnu, more spiritual. It's kind of similar to Kemet, similar. So that's what we were dealing with. And then when religion came, the Hindu, which is probably could be the oldest compared to what we know out of the main religions, probably could be the oldest, that one. So with that anyway, a caste system's put into it. When you have a religion and you're able to implement something like as dominating as that in there. So when you are the Dalit, or you are an untouchable, or you are the Dravidian, you're going to be at the bottom caste, which means that you can't even pray in the temples that they pray in. You know, you can't eat where they eat. You can't even look at the people, even people on the Brahmins who they have the top class. You can't even look at them in the eyes. They have mad superstitious things like if you drink from the same cup as them, this will happen. And oh, they've got them really poisoned. So you can poison people in your doctrine, and you have a large bunch of people. Even though later on, that's where the development of Buddhism ends up coming out of, because instead of some of the people 1,000 years later when Buddhism came, they should have went back to the worship of Vishnu, but it never
Yeah.
happened. What ends up happening is it ends up being like some sort of redoing of Hinduism, but take out the caste system, and Buddhism's not materialistic, is it? It's a lot better. So at the end of the day, it's just distortion that comes, but people need to return back to the original sources, the original knowledge, and we had science and we had spirituality going hand to hand. It's all separated
Yeah.
now. You know what I'm saying? That's it, don't
Well,
we?
you probably should do this ending now.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll wrap it up anyway, but because obviously Terence couldn't come back anyway. But little catch up anyway for something put out for Black History Month, and then maybe sometime we can do something again. We got more to come. So anyway, Chase, I give thanks for today anyway. We'll do this
No worries,
again.
bro.
James
Good
of
seeing you, man.
Scotland, dedicated to original people. Give thanks, Chase.
Peace out, brother.
Peace, brother. God bless.